Hi, it's Lennon. Today we're going to talk about my experience in AmeriCorps as a person on the autism spectrum. I started AmeriCorps in August of 2019. That's when I began training. I served in AmeriCorps Vista. This was after 2 years of unemployment. So after college, I struggled to find a job. I applied for a lot of different kinds of jobs, including those in hospitality, which, being as awkward as I am socially, didn't work out. And being an English major, I know a lot of people say people who were English majors and are successful will say that it's easy to find a job post graduation and it's easy to become a conventionally successful person in a capitalist society. That wasn't true in my case. I just was like, you know what? I need to do something. I was getting super depressed being unemployed and living with my parents. I feel very grateful that they allowed me to do that for as long as I did, but it was time that I stopped doing that. So I applied to a bunch of AmeriCorps positions in New York. I'm originally from New York, so I thought that would be pretty cool. Maybe give back to my home city in a way. So I applied to AmeriCorps Vista at a particular site that focused on providing services and learning opportunities to new immigrants to the US. I thought this was a perfect opportunity for me, and I got the position. So I moved to New York and I started training. Training went really well. The training was not held at my host site. I don't know how to explain this, but okay. There was another host site above my host site, essentially. No, that's not a great way of explaining things. Essentially, my training was held also in New York City. It was held at the office for a nonprofit organization which oversaw many different AmeriCorps Vista host sites within the New York area, whether that be in the city, upstate, different parts of New York. So the training went really well. I enjoyed it. I thought, if this is anything like what it's going to be at my host site, I'm so down. Then I actually started my service at my host site. And it was going okay at first, but then I started being assigned a lot of tasks that were not part of my Vista project description. This became problematic because I had to report to AmeriCorps about what I was doing. And I was doing things that I just did not do well with. A lot of the things I was not good at. It included things like managing the alarm system for the building when no one else was there. So I had like a few, like I would turn the key, had a few seconds to disarm the alarm, and there were a few times when I didn't get it in time, and then that was just a fiasco. I had the police called about 5 times during my service, which wasn't a full service term. So that was just traumatizing. I don't know why I didn't mention this all the while. So this whole time, my entire life, well, of course, I was autistic and undiagnosed. One day I said to my supervisor, when I was doing a lot of these tasks that I was not good at, which were essentially capacity filling, that's what the Vista program described these tasks as being, capacity filling rather than capacity building. Like I was just, someone that they didn't have to pay and was assuming tasks that no one else wanted to do or had the time to do because they didn't want to hire someone and have to pay them. So I was doing a lot of things that I wasn't good at, a lot of things that stressed me out. And then when it came time for me to do the things that were part of the job description, I was so exhausted. The commute alone was horrific. 1 to 2 hours from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and then that was just one way. So that was just a sensory nightmare, and I had to take responsibility for my own conundrums. I need to take responsibility for not always performing well at this job. I was often late. There were more times that I didn't show up to staff meetings than I did show up to staff meetings. And there's a reason for that. I just felt really uncomfortable. The majority of the staff were white people, and they were all neurotypical white people. There was one guy who worked there, and he was like, one day when I was talking, see, I am on the autism spectrum. I don't have a good sense of my own personal volume. And he said to me, "Can you speak up? We can't hear you." Just like that, same exact tone. That really upset me. And at first I felt like I was going to cry, but then later on I was like really angry about it. Anyhow, I told my supervisor, this is all over the place. I can try to make a more organized video at some point. Let me know if you'd like to see that. But I didn't take any notes today because every time I try to film a video with notes, I end up sounding very robotic. So I figured I'd try to do it this way and let some of my personality show. So I expressed, when I started struggling really bad, my supervisor called me into her office and talked to me about my lack of progress on my work assignments and my lateness and my excessive sick days that I took off. And I told her, I'm thinking I may be on the autism spectrum and I'm seeking out a diagnosis. And I kid you not, she tells me, "Oh, I'm a social worker. I know a lot about this, and it's really hard to get an autism diagnosis." And she was like essentially dissuading me from trying to seek out a diagnosis. And she was like pretty much convincing me that I was just depressed or whatever. Yes, I was very depressed. I was anxious, depressed, barfing in the trash can, shitting in my pants, literally. It was stressful just being there. I don't know. She didn't really seem to get that. So I eventually, after, wait, let me count how many months. It was from, like, September is when I started at my host site. And I terminated my service in January. So from September to January, not very long. It was supposed to go from September to September of the following year, but I terminated my service early because I was struggling too much. And at the time, I was actually seeking out an autism diagnosis, but I had postponed that for quite a while because I was convinced by both my supervisor and my therapist at the time that I was not on the autism spectrum and that I wouldn't receive a diagnosis. So once I terminated my service, my supervisor, my former supervisor at that point, she was like, "Hey, can you report to Vista that you terminated your service because you were struggling with mental health issues and not because it was our fault? Like, there was nothing wrong that we did." So I did not write anything to Vista. I didn't have a nice word to say. That's what they teach us as kids. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. But, sometimes you have to say something. I think I may still contact the Vista program, AmeriCorps Vista, and let them know a little bit about my experience. Probably won't send them this video. The point of this video is, well, there are several points that I'm trying to make. Number one, believe in yourself. Really, you don't have to accept any job that you're offered. I was really excited to accept that position with AmeriCorps, but I didn't really do enough research. I think that the Vista program wasn't the right fit for me, and I didn't realize before getting into it, I'm not sure if I realized this or not, that it didn't involve any direct service. I either realized that and thought, oh, that would work more in my favor. Or I didn't realize that and thought, okay. But I learned that I'm really good at direct service. And I like working with people one on one. And I like helping people. And in that position, I didn't feel like I was helping anyone. I felt like maybe I was helping the organization not have to hire another paid employee, but turns out when I really looked into the history of this organization, wasn't really that fond of them. And a lot of the people who financially back them are really conservative old white men who don't really care about anything other than themselves. And I did often feel like the token brown person, and I did often feel like I was only selected for the position because I was brown. And I added to their diversity quota somehow. Maybe that's what it was. I definitely say if you're interested in joining AmeriCorps, I think that's great. And a lot of my friends who are in AmeriCorps or who have served in AmeriCorps have had really positive experiences. My suggestion would be to do a lot of research on the host site for the position to which you're applying. Because if you find that their mission and values are not in line with yours, it's just not going to be fun. And I mean, it's going to be awful. That's what I mean. So let's review. Number one, believe in yourself. Number two, do your research. Number three, seek out a diagnosis if you want to seek out a diagnosis. Don't listen to anyone who's telling you you're not going to get the diagnosis. You know yourself better than anyone. So, again, I think that's kind of like believe in yourself. Yes, yes, queen, believe in yourself. Believe. Follow your intuition. You know yourself. So, I guess if I had any parting words, I think AmeriCorps is a great program. I just think I got, the bad egg, the bad seed, the rotten grape. I don't know these sayings. Like, what is a saying? I just feel like, I mean, I don't regret it at all. I think it needed to happen in order for me to get my diagnosis. I received my diagnosis shortly after I terminated my service. So a lot of people may be wondering, well, why didn't you just wait it out? Maybe you could have gotten accommodations. I genuinely felt that I couldn't wait it out. I felt like I was not going to survive if I continued with that position. It was bad for my mental health and my physical health. I was getting sick a lot. So, all in all, things worked out. Things worked out. Shortly after I terminated my service, I moved out of New York to live with my girlfriend in Illinois. So that worked out great. We were doing long distance for a while, and then we were not. We didn't have to do that any longer. So that was a great thing. And then that's about when coronavirus took over New York. So I feel very fortunate to have been able to escape the city at that time and to have received the support that I needed to have had a place to shelter in place. If you have any more questions about my experience in AmeriCorps, feel free to drop a comment or send me a DM. Depending on how many questions I get, I may film like a part 2 to this video, like answering questions about my experience in AmeriCorps. Again, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I'm not speaking on behalf of all people on the autism spectrum. Just speaking as one person who's autistic, who served in AmeriCorps, who had a negative experience. Probably I'm kind of like a needle in the haystack or a something. I don't know these sayings. Let me know if there's anything I can do to support you, and feel free to keep up with me on the socials. I have all the links down below. Okay, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.